Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. We are back with another nervous guide video. If you've never been here before, you don't know what that means, stick around and we'll explain it in 2 seconds. But today we are doing the nervous guide to Friends the Musical Parody. So if that sounds like something that might help you or might be interesting to you, stick around and we'll get into it in 2 whole seconds. So yes, we're back with another nervous guide. If you don't know what nervous guides are and this is your first time, firstly hello, my name is Claire, welcome to my channel. This series, or the nervous guide series of videos, is thus, and let's get the normal speech out. For every show that I see, I try and do 2 separate videos on that one show. Firstly, number 1, the nervous guide. The nervous guide is this video. The nervous guide is everything you need to know before you go into the show. So that could be sensory and content warnings, it could be view from my seat, it could be merchandise, it could be a variety of things. So that is this video. This second video that I do is the review. Review is always put in inverted commas because at the end of the day I'm in no way professional. I just like to talk about theatre, and sometimes, including this show, I go and see shows alone, and because I'm alone it doesn't mean, or it does mean, that I have no one to talk to after the show about my thoughts and my feelings. So thus the review was begun. Anyway, let's get into the nervous guide. So where shall I start? Should we start with view from my seat slash seat chat? I was watching, or I watched this at the Wolverhampton Grand. By the time you see these 2 videos, I am pretty sure that the show will have closed, and I apologise for that. Or not closed full stop, but finished its run at the Grand, depending on editing speeds, because I am going away and I don't want to stress myself out too much. But long story short, I was sat in the stalls for this show. I sat in, please hold, J26. My view looked like this. Pretty decent view. Because I was going alone, I got to choose where I wanted to sit, how much I wanted to pay for my ticket, the things that I have to consider when I'm going with other people. So because I was on my own, and when I booked the tickets there was space, I put myself relatively central in the stalls, which is a privilege for me, because I tend to, if I go with people slash with my mother, I have to go and sit on the ends of rows. So it was really nice being in like central to this show. I feel like if you're not central, you're not going to miss anything. Everything pretty much goes in the midst of the stage. There is not a lot that happens on the sides of stages, so that is a bonus and something in case you are worried, or in case your tickets are more to the left, more to the right. I don't think there would be a problem for the show during those times. On the Wolverhampton Grand website there is a age recommendation of 13 plus. There is some slightly fruity language, but nothing too bad. There is even a point in the show where they talk about the fact that because the show Friends itself is rated the American PG-13, you never see boobs, you never see anyone fully naked. It's all very like censored, and that is kind of the same with this show. There is some moments where they like allude to stuff, but nothing really happens, and also yeah, there's a little bit of gentle swearing, but it's not that bad. I've been to worse sweary shows. So that's just something to be aware of. The running time of this show is 2 hours 15, including a 20-minute interval. It was pretty snappy, pretty like continuous. It wasn't one of those shows where you kind of keep an eye on the time and how much show you've got left. If you're going to this show and you're not a fan of Friends, you're going to the wrong show. But yeah, it was snappy, fast-paced. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the review, but yeah, 2 hours 15, including the interval, is your running time for this show. Moving on to the content and sensory warnings, my favourites. Now, the thing I love about the Grand is when you enter the auditorium, you enter where the seats are, there is always 2 posters. One doesn't change from show to show, which is the one that's the casting information, which basically they always put the same thing in that poster, which is, please note the appearance of an artist cannot be guaranteed, performance schedules may be subject to change. That always amuses me slightly because on top of theatre shows, quite often comedians come to Wolverhampton, they go to the Grand Theatre because it is a great space to go and watch something. And it's always funny to see that poster sitting up when you go and see a one-person solo comedian doing their show. You're like, well, I hope they're doing this show, otherwise I want my money back. However, also on there, usually in a slightly different colour, I'm assuming because my brightness is always too bright. There we go. So that is the one that is the casting information, and then the second one is always changeable depending on the show. So this one says, Friends the Musical Parody contains flashing lights, haze and pyrotechnics. This performance is 2 hours 15, including a 20-minute interval. So I walked in, that was the only sensory situations that I knew about. I didn't know anything going into the show apart from that it was to do with Friends, for obvious reasons. I have to say though, from a sensory side and from a me personally side, I didn't have too many moments that I had to write down. This is my list. Very easy. Content wise, as I said, there's a few moments of slightly stronger language, but it is on the whole not too bad a show. There's no real problems to warn you about. If you've seen the show Friends, you kind of know what you're expecting to see. On a sensory basis, I have a few things like I just said, so let's get into it. Firstly, me personally, and everyone is different, for me sensory wise, my big moments are things like guns and visible guns and gunshots. Quite often, or more often, any kind of large moments of violence, occasionally a flashing light, and generally just loud noises are my thing. So in Act 1 I literally have one thing to mention, and that is the use of what I've put in my notes as a semi blackout. The stage doesn't go completely dark. It goes darker, and then 2 characters bring out candles which have been hidden behind the famous sofa. But yeah, you can still see everything that's happening on the stage. It is used to symbolise a power cut / blackout, and then a 3rd character appears from behind the sofa, but it's not like devastating blackness, you can't see anything scary times. It's more of a slightly darker stage that then gets lighter again. And that was Act 1. Act 2, the 2 things that I wrote down Number one is there are flashing, changing coloured lights. So it's not flash, 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 flash. It's like flash, new colour, flash, new colour, flash, new colour. But they're not like in your face flashes. They all happen above the stage, but they are slightly flashing. So it is something to be aware of. That happens during the song OMG It's Jealous. One of my highlights. But like I said, it's not like flash flash in your face, ow my eyes are gonna burn for the rest of the evening kind of flashy lights, but they are kind of sporadic, changing coloured flashy lights. So I wanted to warn. And the only other thing that I wrote down was I've put exploding fountain after bells. Basically the show ends with all characters sitting on the famous couch looking at the famous fountain. Like I said, if you've ever seen Friends, you know the fountain they all dance in during the opening credits. That's the famous fountain. Then the bows happen, and at the end of the bows the fountain kind of goes pew, and confetti comes out of it. It's not exploding. To my knowledge, there was no real noise attached to it. It was just a pew, and there was so much going on at the point. There was applause, there was bows, and there was everything. So it was really nothing that I was particularly worried about. And like I said, I was sat mid stalls and there wasn't really any loud noise attached to it. So sensory wise, it was a gem. Especially when you walk in and it said like there's going to be pyrotechnics. I was like, oh goodness no, I'm not ready for this. I've done a whole day at work and I want some laughter. The only other things that I wrote down is that there is a small chance of audience participation. This only happens at the start of Act 1 and the start of Act 2. The start of Act 1 and Act 2 starts with a warm-up guy. Now this person is multiple characters throughout the show, and one of his characters is being the warm-up person. So my understanding, because I've never seen anything filmed live, my understanding is quite a lot of sitcom based shows use a warm-up person who tells them jokes, kind of warms up the crowd, gets them ready for the show. This one person plays a character whose name is Kip something, Kip Connors? I think that's what they're named, the warm-up person, but in the programme it's called warm-up guy. So he comes on for the start of Act 1 and Act 2, like proper, and before Act 1 he welcomes everyone to the show, asks if everyone's excited, then does some vocal warm-up. So he goes, and can you all go yeah, 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 things like that. Then as that bit goes on, he makes the groups smaller and smaller until it's one person at the front doing it on their own. So if you are not front row, you are safe. Act 2 starts with a quiz. At the end of the quiz, I feel like no one was picked on at that point, or if they were, again, front row. Anything past front row you will not be talked to by the actors, which is quite lucky because I was very close to booking a front row seat because that was one of my other options. So phew. The only other thing I wanted to mention is the use of a handheld camera. Now this is used very sporadically, and quite a lot of the time when it is used to point on the stage at the actors, just from a slightly different angle, because throughout the show there is 3 separate screens up high, but they do warn during that first bit with the warm-up guy that there is a camera. It sometimes may be pointed into the audience at people. It's usually generally a generic shot, but it is there in case you are worried. Again, it's not really used to point at people apart from, again, one person on the front row. So if you don't want to be part of the action, don't sit front row, is basically what I'm warning. Anyway, that is pretty much everything for this video. I've talked most things. I have, however, just realised that I started doing what I bought at the show and I need to go and get it. So 2 seconds. You like this, it would be the same, but hang on one second and I'm back. It meant nothing to you, it's just now I'm slightly out of breath because I ran down and upstairs. Merch wise, let's quickly talk about it. There was a decent amount of merch for this show. There is a tote bag, there is a t-shirt, there is a magnet, there is multiple things. I should really get my breath back or work on my stamina. I bought 2 things. You've already seen one of those. This is the programme. It's an in-house programme, so it says Wolves Grand at the bottom. And there is a mix of information about the show, information about the cast, and also information about things coming to the Grand, because the Grand have made the programme. So there is Panto, there is Queens, there is everything coming up to the Wolves Grand, or some things coming up to the Wolves Grand, such as Mean Girls, Here and Now, Operation Mincemeat, Legally Blonde. I could list everything. More importantly for me, The Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, which is coming very soon. I can't bloody wait. I'm going back to Narnia. I haven't bought my ticket yet. I shall. So that was £5. And then secondly was this. I bought the pin. So here is in all its glory. You will also see that it says pivot. The thing about this is that the pivot moves. So it is a stairwell based pin, and it says pivot, and pivot moves up and down, and I assume round and round, but I haven't really played with it yet. The card says the one with the enamel pin. Lovely. It did cost £10. I was very much in the queue for merch and I was like, do I not? In the end I did. It happened. It's okay. So yeah, I spent £15 on merchandise, which was a lot, but I have an addiction. We've talked about it before. It's all okay. Anyway, that is pretty much that. That's everything that I bought. I've talked about everything I think I need to. I'm going to leave this video here and try and film the review next. So get used to this outfit. You'll be seeing it again in the next video. All that's left to say though for this is thank you for watching. Congratulations if you got to the end. I need to go and have a lie down because I literally ran. But yeah, I love you all lots. I hope you come back. Please go and check out the show if you are a Friends fan. It's really good, and I will be talking about it more in the review. But yeah, there we are. The Nervous Guide to Friends the Musical Parody, all done and dusted. So all that's left to say is the usual, and that is so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye. Bye.